You should be all set to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can we start with roll call, please?
You're
Sure.
welcome.
Chair Andrew Blas.
I am here.
Vice Chair Drix. Vice Chair Drix is absent. Catherine Van Amber.
Present.
Priscilla De La Cruz.
Present.
Carlos Garcia is absent. Jesus Halquin is absent. Amelia Rose.
Here.
Vanek Kumba.
Present.
Okay, you have 4 present and 3 absent. You have a quorum.
Oh, great. Okay. And hopefully they can join us soon. I just sent them a note, so hopefully they'll be here in just a second. Awesome. So welcome everybody to our March Environmental Sustainability Task Force meeting. Soon to be hopefully the Sustainability Commission once the ordinance passes. I hope everyone's doing well and enjoying the nice weather. And I'm really grateful to see all your faces today. I thought we are going to go a little out of order from the agenda because we are joined by a guest today, Jamie Rhodes, who's going to give us our update on where things stand for community choice aggregation. But just a quick note, just so if folks haven't looked at the agenda on the portal or through the email I sent, just so you know, the few things on our agenda are we're going to have some updates and conversation about ongoing projects from the Office of Sustainability. We're going to hear an update on Providence community choice aggregation. We're going to talk a little bit and update about the building energy reporting ordinance. And then we're going to talk a little bit about ESTF structure and our operation, just doing some internal housekeeping, and then any time for public comment. So let's start. Jamie, I think you might know most of us, but would it be helpful if we did a little round of intros?
Sure. I always love a nice round of intros, but I think I've met everybody before.
Maybe just I don't know, in case that's helpful. So hi, Sue Anderbois. I'm the chair of the ESTF, and I live in Providence in Ward 3. Catherine, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Catherine. I'm a resident of Providence. I live in Ward 1, and I'll pass it to Amelia.
Hi, Jamie. I'm Amelia, and I don't live in Providence, but I am a longtime member of the task force. And I'll hand it over to Priscilla.
Priscilla De La Cruz. I live in Providence, Ward 14. I'm here serving in my personal capacity, but I also work at Green Energy Consumers Alliance, and I'm the president of the Environment Council of Rhode Island in my separate roles. Oh, I am passing it on to Robert.
I am, as you know, Jamie, I do not live in Providence, but I'm the energy manager for the city of Providence.
Wait, what? We got to move you into Providence. Anyway, let's go over to Vatic.
Hi, Vadik, he, him, his pronouns. I live here in Providence and I work with the REJC.
Emily, do you want to introduce yourself? You probably know Jamie, but just.
Yeah, sure. Emily too. I'm the sustainability manager for the city. I know Jamie, obviously, but I'm Leah Bamberger, she, her pronouns, director of sustainability for the city.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Jamie, for being with us today and for being willing to give us an update on what's going on with community choice aggregation for Providence and the upcoming PUC meeting.
Excellent. Yeah. So my name's Jamie. I go by he and him, and I'm also a resident of Providence in Ward 9. So down in Washington Park. Yeah, it's always nice to, it's like speaking to my city here. It's also nice to be working with the city I live in as well. It's always an honor. So this shouldn't be too long of an update. So where we're at with community choice aggregation. So as I think it's been noticed that on Thursday is the public comment opportunity for the Public Utilities Commission. For every aggregation plan that gets filed, the PUC has to hold their own public hearing. We've gone through 2 so far with both Central Falls and Barrington having their public hearings. And I will tell you that the turnout so far has been 0 people across both towns. So there's a lot more public comment that we get when we're actually hosted by the city council or town council of a community that we're working in, and rather than the PUC. But this is what it says in the law, and we follow the law. And so on Thursday, we have public hearings, not just in Providence in the afternoon, but also for the South Kingstown plan in the morning. And if anybody doesn't get enough aggregation information in front of them, all day on Wednesday is actually a technical session for what's called purchase of receivables, which is a long way of saying that it's a program by which the utility, National Grid, will purchase the uncollected debt of people that are on competitive supply that haven't paid their bill. National Grid's able to purchase that at a discount to cover the cost of administrating the program. And what this program would allow is essentially all income brackets, all individuals in a community to participate in an aggregation program without losing access to the arrearage management plan, without losing access to budget billing programs. We think that this is a critical policy to help both increase the number of suppliers that will bid on the aggregation that Providence puts out, as well as a number of these consumer protection pieces. So there's a full day hearing on Wednesday on that program that's been proposed by the Renewable Energy, or the Association of Energy Suppliers. I forgot their full name. As well as the Division of Public Utilities, us as Good Energy, and I'm sure there'll be other folks participating as well. And if you are really in the weeds on energy and have ever wondered why we get with our energy bill, we get this disclosure label about what's in our electricity that most people look at and be like, I have no idea what this is trying to tell me. This information is wholly incomprehensible. We, as part of our aggregation programs, have actually developed a new energy source disclosure label that would be more accurate in describing both where the renewable energy is coming from, where the for those that aren't on full renewable programs, where the residual mix is coming from, what the climate impact of that is, as well as the other particulate matter and other emissions that come from energy supply. So we've developed a new energy source disclosure label that we want to include in all of our aggregation programs. And the PUC is holding a hearing on that first thing Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. And it may become the new standard energy source disclosure label across the state if this all goes well. So one more thing that working on aggregation programs has done is maybe we'll have an energy disclosure label that people can read and tells them something that they want to understand about where their electricity came from. So it's all fun if this is what you're into, which is clearly I am. So that's what's on the variety of dockets this week. Early or at some point last week, I don't remember what day it was. I had a conversation with public utilities staff about what happens after we finish these public hearings. And my understanding is that this is the last step. This is one of the last two steps necessary for the plan to be approved. The last one is there are rules for National Grid on how they share data about customers with the aggregation program, when we get what data we are able to get so we can develop the bids, and then also to enroll customers into the aggregation program. Those rules also need to be finalized. We've been working on them for a couple of months, and that was hoping that today National Grid would file its hopefully final revised set of them. I haven't seen them yet, but it's only a matter of time. So at this point, once we get the rules approved of data sharing, and then the Public Utilities Commission has its public hearing, we are on track to get the plans formally approved. At this point, no individual, no entity, the state, the Division of Public Utilities, nobody's raised any issue, any outstanding issues that would prevent the plan from being approved. The division's given a positive recommendation to move forward with the program. So we're really waiting on the public hearing, the rules, and then the approval process. And once that happens, and I'm optimistic that we can get these last steps done before the end of next month, before the end of April, so that we should have an approved aggregation plan at that point. We're really kind of walking towards to keep the end in mind, we're walking towards a launch date of hopefully August, not April, sorry. A launch date not August either, oh my God. October, it's one of those months that begins with a vowel. Okay, we're looking for a launch date of October which would give us the summer to actually do the bidding process and also to conduct our education and outreach efforts. We're optimistically thinking that July into August, we'll be thinking that that's when we're really starting to put information out to the community. This program's coming up. Here's what you need to know about it. And then by the end of August, we should have the bidding done at that point, so that we'll know what actual rates. All that's to say that assumes the bidding process goes well and we get good bids in. There's always that chance of that. This is a new market, it's a new program, that if the bids come in and none of them look like they meet the environmental standards or the financial standards that we're looking for, we can always reject the bids and say, let's do this again. Let's come back and make sure we get the lowest rates possible, as well as the best pricing on renewable energy credits, and all of that work. So that's roughly the timeline we're looking at. Once again, plans approved towards the end of April, looking to get the bidding done early to midsummer, start our education outreach work in August through September, with the program launch in October. And I say all that with, if the PUC throws me a curveball, then I may change all of that, but let's hope that doesn't happen. So that's kind of where we're at. And I'm happy to, if there's any questions, specifics that anybody has, or any questions about the plan itself, where any other communities are at, what the other work looks like. Happy to answer anything that people might have on their minds.
Does anyone have any questions? I have one or two, but I'll go last if anyone else has any. Or comments.
I just want to thank Jamie and his team for all his hard work and attention to detail and sticking with this process. It's certainly a bit of a beast. So just thank you for helping move us along.
Thanks, Jamie.
Been happy to do it.
A question I have, Jamie, you mentioned that for the others that have gone through, there have been zero public comment. I don't know if that was the right way to phrase that, but no one has showed up. Is that a problem? Like, would it be helpful to have a letter or somebody show up from the ESTF or from the city? Like, is that not like employees, but I mean like a resident to show up? Like, is it a problem that there's no public comment, and would it be helpful if there was?
I don't see it as a problem, because all of the public comment that came out for the city council, or all the comments from the city council, as well as the public comment that we got when we had the public comment through this task force, all that's been included in the plan. So I've done summaries of it, quotes when necessary. So all that's been included to demonstrate the level of community support for it, as well as the work done by the city council to approve it. So no, I do not think that it's an issue for anybody, for us not to have public comment at this point. Obviously, if anybody wants to come in and say, we like this, that's great. Really what the commission is looking for is not whether it's a good policy or bad policy. Their scope of what they're looking for is primarily, does this fit the law? Is this consistent with the law that the General Assembly passed to authorize this program? If it does meet the law, and even if the PUC thinks we don't like this, they still have to approve it. They don't actually have judgment on whether it's a good idea to move forward or not. That's reserved for the city council to determine. And since the council approved it, the city says that they want to do it, then they're just looking for, is there anything lacking? Is there any legal hurdles? Is this not consistent? Did they miss a piece that needs to be included? So that's what they're looking for is. So no, it's not necessary for people to take time out of their random Thursday afternoon to show up. But I will obviously be listening in. I don't get to say anything during public comment either. So if anything comes up there, I'll be happy to report back to the task force of like, hey, stuff came up in the public comment that maybe we want to address in the plan that we hadn't thought of yet. But I don't anticipate that. I did warn the commission that of every community that we've worked in, Providence has the most active base of people and engaged population. So that they should be prepared for people to show up, as opposed to other communities where they were generally aware that not many people show up to public comments unless it's about actual rates. So.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jamie.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions for Jamie? Just going to check the attendees to make sure there's no hands raised. Nope. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Jamie. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for the update. It's so exciting that it's moving on to the next
Yeah.
step of the process. It's not often you get to say the PUC is exciting, but here we are.
And what I'll do is like once we hit that next hurdle, hopefully I get to report back with Leah that plans approved next month, and then I have a feeling we'll be coming back with some more specific tasks of the education and outreach work, organizations, groups that we should make sure that we're meeting with to discuss the program before launch. Even if it wasn't included in the plan in the first run, doesn't mean that we don't do the work at this point. There's plenty of new people that we didn't think of last summer when we had the plan approved. So the door is open. I'll be back in front of you with an update, hopefully positive, and then looking for anybody else that you think we need to meet with and talk to. I am all ears about who else we need to go to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Have a good evening.
Jamie. Bye.
I also want to acknowledge Amelia's helper, whose head is popping in and out. It's super, super adorable. Awesome. So the next thing we can talk about on our agenda is the building energy reporting ordinance, and then we'll pop up to the ongoing projects from the Office of Sustainability. So task force members, you have gotten a note about this from me already, but also members of the public. So on Wednesday at 5, the Finance Committee is holding the public hearing on the Building Energy Reporting Ordinance Bureau. You'll remember last time we talked about this as like the next step that we were waiting for the public comment period. I can send around, Carrie, Climate Action Rhode Island has put together a Facebook group or Facebook event, not a group, Facebook event to encourage people to participate. Public comment will be accepted. We've heard that it's helpful to keep your public comment to under 2 minutes. And in general, we're saying there are 3 ways to participate and show your support. One is to attend, like the more people who are there, the better, to show that there's a lot of support. And so I sent around the Finance Committee agenda, but I can send it around again. It's also on the City Council's portal. It's for the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. There's another one noticed for later in the day, so the one at 5 p.m.
So it's not tomorrow, it's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Yes. Thank you, Leah. Wednesday at 5 p.m. I'm like already skipping ahead a day in my calendar. So Wednesday at 5 p.m. So you can attend and just listen in. If you're just listening in and you're not going to raise your hand, you can also change your Zoom name to I Support Bureau so they can see that there's lots of people there who support it. That'll get tricky if you want to say something, because then if everyone's raising their hand and everyone's name is I Support Bureau, that gets a little confusing. The second way is you're welcome to give public comment at the event. Oh my God, Amelia, I'm dying. This is so cute. People are welcome to give public comment at the event. It's at the discretion of the chair, but that is the point of the public hearing. In general, the guidance is always to keep your comment to 2 minutes or under, and it's always welcome for you to say, to not repeat the same things everybody else has said. So if someone else has already said what you want to say, being like, oh, I support the Building Energy Reporting Ordinance. I live in Ward 3. I live here in Providence, and I support the things other people have said, and I'll give up the rest of my time so other people can talk. That is always refreshing for committee members, but also feel free to share all the ways that you support Bureau as well. And the third is to submit written comments, and you can submit those ahead of time to the clerk's office and ask that they be included in the record. But so it's really exciting that it's being heard. And Leah, do you have anything else to add about Bureau?
No, I don't. That's it. Thank you.
Cool. And you can find the details also on Carrie, Climate Action RI, on their Facebook page. There's an event that kind of spells out all these ways as well, along with like the Zoom link and the email address and everything like that. Carrie's been a great partner in helping to get the word out. So Climate Action RI on Facebook, shout out to them for being such a great partner.
Yes, too, I will just add that the public hearing is a really important part of the process, and having folks participate and show up and share their testimony is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give a brief overview of the policy and our process. I believe Councilwoman Anthony is going to speak to her involvement. And then it's really important that your elected officials hear from their constituents.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. It's really, yeah, it's a really important part of the process for them to hear that there's so much support. You're also welcome to reach out directly to your own council people and let them know how much you support it, which I know members of this task force already have, and members of the public who are on, I believe you probably already have as well, but that's also helpful, especially if they happen to be on the finance committee where it has been referred. Great. So let's move over to ongoing or updates on ongoing projects from the Office of Sustainability. Leah, Emily, and Rob, any updates on things that you're working on?
I can start and then I'll pass it off to Emily and Rob. So one, this is a project that Emily's been working on, but I'm happy to share a little bit about our pesticide-free PVD campaign that will be kicking off on Earth Day. There's going to be lots of fun activities to do with your family and friends in your community around Earth Day. So just stay tuned for more information about that. And regards to pesticide-free PVD, would love the task force assistance once that launches and just getting the word out and getting people, or we're doing some work getting large property owners on board to commit to stop using pesticides or herbicides or other chemicals that could be harmful to people and non-human critters as well. But yeah, so we'll be providing for folks who make the commitment some like a yard sign or some sort of signage to put in your yard in Spanish and English, and hopefully we can get those signs up all across the city in every ward. So stay tuned for more information on that. We're also making progress on the compost plan. We've had some meetings with the compost haulers and folks who work in the industry to get their insights. We've been working with Ainsley, who is a contractor to support this process, and reviewing some of the drafts that she's come up with. And we hope to bring a draft or presentation to the task force in the coming months, either April or May, depending on how quickly we move. So just something to keep on your radar. And then just, we've talking a lot about the Barrow ordinance, which is fantastic to see that move. I also just want to remind folks that the sustainability ordinance was also introduced at the same time, which is also an important structural ordinance that codifies, as you mentioned, the role of the ESTF and the environmental justice seats on the committee, our targets and goals in the climate justice plan. So that's really important too. It was also referred to finance committee. Just as we're really excited that Barrow is moving forward, I don't want us to lose sight of that as well. And then the comp plan as well. I've incorporated some of the feedback, and we're just finalizing the next sort of draft, and hopefully that can get back to the City Plan Commission, and they'll have to hold a public hearing as well. Lots of opportunities to participate in democracy. It's really exciting. All right, so that's it for me. I'll let Emily give her updates.
Yeah, so we talked about environmentally preferable purchasing in past months. Just wanted to give an update. With purchasing, we put out a survey about the purchasing across the city departments with the aim of hearing directly from departments about their existing purchasing and operational practices and opportunities for potential improvement. Moving forward in the spring, we put that out about 3 weeks ago with 2 weeks to respond, and we're still kind of soliciting responses from all the city departments. And this spring, we're planning to analyze those results, determine top priority product categories, potentially exploring bulk procurement opportunities, and researching environmentally preferable specifications for those product categories. We're also planning to go back to departments for any additional feedback on the development of that policy, and hopefully finalize a policy in the summer of 2021. So that's the purchasing side. Plastic bag enforcement will begin this spring. We have encountered challenges just securing a machine, and we'll be putting a manual process in place with approval from the law department to do so. I did just want to emphasize that it continues to be a complaint-based system based on my capacity to visit and reach out to individual businesses based on recent complaints. Our recent effort to like put together a list of all the businesses was about 4,000 unique contacts. So as more of us qualify for the vaccine and begin to re-enter society this summer, my primary ask of all of you, members of the public too, is just to let us know if and where you see plastic bags around town. The first violation is still a warning without a penalty. It's just really helpful to have more eyes on the ground to ensure that education and compliance is all across the city and not just the places that I visit. It's not fair. Yeah, and I have received offers from some folks and like students to help distribute information to retailers. We have some educational materials that are more geared towards consumers as well. So if you're interested in doing that, I'll be tracking just like volunteers, which business corridors are covered so that we can see that we're distributed throughout the city. And I think that was it for me since thanks again for covering pesticide-free. Rob?
Great. I have updates on two initiatives to give to everyone. First, you may be aware of some work we did in 2019. The city partnered with the Clean Energy Group and their project, the Resilient Power Project, to get assessments done at a couple of our facilities for solar and storage projects. And we ended up working with a consultant, American Microgrid Solutions, to develop some feasibility studies for the Providence Career and Technical Academy and Davy Lopes Center. And I've been working over the last month or so to move forward with the project at PCTA. Right now, it's in the stage of trying to get a study done to get it to 30% design so it could go out to bid. We've been collaborating with OER, and we're hoping to get their support to do that engineering study. And you know, it's an exciting project because, as you are undoubtedly aware, PCTA is the city's main shelter for emergencies, and you know, we to be able to have, you know, reliable, sustainable resilience power in that facility in a shorter or longer term outage together with the generator and the battery and the storage would be, and solar on the rooftop would be phenomenal for the city. So we're excited about that. The other update I have is that there's I think going to be a pilot offering from OER to fund lighting in schools. And so I've been working with PPSD, looking at 3 buildings in particular that still have T8s, 3 large school buildings. And we're hoping that that we'll get 100% funding to cover conversion of those buildings to LED and controls. So those are my updates.
Great. I actually thought of one other update, which is just our annual plan. We are finalizing a annual report. So this is for 2020. We're finalizing the draft in the next week or so. So hope to present that to the ESTF before the next meeting so we can move it forward from there.
Awesome, thanks. Does anyone have any questions for Leah, Emily, or Rob? The Zoom fatigue seems real today, you guys.
I have one question related to the compost survey that's being put out. What have been the responses to that? And is there anything that the task force can do to help promote that?
Responses seem to be, we're getting a lot of responses. They're definitely predominantly on the east side from residents on the east side. So we would love help still getting that out to a broader audience beyond the east side if possible. So any help on that front would be wonderful. We haven't, digested the responses yet, so I don't have anything to report on that yet.
What's the deadline for that?
Yeah, Ainsley was devoting this week, I think, to doing more in-person outreach on the West End. That was initially going to be the target neighborhood, and working with some partners to reach non-English speakers as well. So I think she's going to set a deadline to include the data in the report, the composting report that's being developed, so that we can say, like, based on the results from these states, but we'll keep the survey open.
I just noticed that Liza Birkin is on, and she is the point person for the neighborhood association, the Association of Neighborhood Associations. So one, thank you, Liza, for being on the call. And also, have we sent it out specifically to Liza to help distribute to other neighborhood associations? And if not, do you want me to do that?
I believe we did, but we'll make sure.
A quick question I had about the plastic bags. If folks are finding, Emily had mentioned, like, as people are out and about and as we reemerge back into the world, I hope folks are getting their vaccinations soon, as soon as possible. But who do we give a heads up to if we do find plastic bags in the world? Like, who can, is that you, Emily, or is there a info at Office of Sustainability? Who's the right person?
There is, oh yeah, I almost shared this. It's the Sustain PVD at providenceri.gov. Or either of us. And you can also use 311.
311. Okay, cool.
Or social media.
You should also first report it to the person at the store and say, hey, did you?
Yeah.
Because education is, what we're really, the mission here, and making sure folks are aware before we go on with enforcement.
Yeah, I assume step one is saying, hey, do you know that blah, 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 and having the conversation. But for anyone listening in, yeah. Cool. Any other questions or comments, anyone? No pressure. It's so nice out. I hope folks are, anyway, I hope people get out after this. The last thing on the agenda, the second to last thing, is if no one has any further questions, and let me just make sure no one in the public has their hand raised. No. Okay, cool. Then the second to last thing on the agenda is just thinking about the ESTF ourselves. We've kind of been talking about having a conversation about the ESTF and how we function for a little bit. But I know I was waiting a little bit because there was so much going on. And also we were getting back up to full membership. But just kind of wanted to, oops, wrong notebook. Just check in about a few things. So one, just start a conversation a little bit about our structure, thinking about, so I'm just going to preview some of the things for us to talk about. It doesn't all have to be at this meeting, but just like some of the topics coming up. So one, we do have an open seat available right now. We had been talking with Susanna Yim, who has stopped responding to emails, so no longer interested. So we do have one open spot now, but when the ordinance passes that Leah mentioned earlier, there will be additional seats, particularly for youth members, but something for us to be thinking about. If there are other members, other folks we want to be looking at for membership, or other demographics and voices that are missing from our table, perhaps different wards in the city, perhaps different age demographics. I have heard via private message from a member of the public that they've noticed there are no older residents on the task force in addition to youth voice not being here. So that's something for us to think about, or business voices, or just other voices we might be missing. So that's a conversation. Now there's just our structure, thinking about how our meetings run. I've been chair for a bit of time now, and thinking about who might be interested in stepping up to that role next, particularly as the Sustainability Commission ordinance, the piece of that ordinance dealing with us passes, there will be term limits. So wanting to make sure we're thinking about, how we're cycling through. And then just thinking about how we like to work with each other. There's a lot of latitude for the chair right now to be creating the agendas. If that's not the right structure, or if there are other areas or topics of interest that folks want to have, or discussed, or things like that. I just kind of wanted us to have a little bit of time, maybe the next 15 to 20 minutes, to discuss, how the ESTF functions, and if there are input or feedback that members of the task force have. I'll follow up individually with Carlos, Jesus, and Julian, since they couldn't be here today. But just wanted to open up the floor for conversation. And this is a little unstructured, but just kind of wanted to hear people's initial thoughts and reactions, and we'll follow up at future meetings with some more structure. And just one last thing I'll say, and then I'm going to stop talking. So I'd love to hear from you all. We had written up, and by we, I mean Leah had so helpfully written up more than a year ago now, like a draft statement of, or SOPs, standard operating procedures as a draft. And since we've evolved and changed membership since then, I will circulate that again, but wanted to just have this free form conversation a little bit first to inform any edits to that. Because it's a lot of new faces since the last time we've had this kind of conversation. So just wanted to make sure that, that folks had the opportunity to share. And I will stop talking and move more into just note taking, and would love to hear what folks are thinking.
I'll just add, I definitely concur. I think having a little age diversity is a great idea. And so thinking about how we can pinpoint invitations to apply for the open seats would be great. And I guess the only other thing I would mention or say is I've been on this I've been having these conversations about my own organization's board of directors, and that's sort of how I see the ESTF as like a board of directors for the, not that we're directing the sustainability office, but that's sort of the relationship. And just giving, I've been trying to think of like better ways to run our own board meetings internally at Groundwork. And one of the things that we've been talking about is creating just a list of questions. So like for each meeting throughout the year, we kind of do updates and talk about business and things that are upcoming and stuff. But then we have like one core question that we all sort of focus on for 15 minutes to talk through, like whatever. We could like generate that list of questions, and then it might provide some kind of like substantive, if there's some kind of thing that the Office of Sustainability has been grappling with or wants some feedback on, or if there's something in the task force that we think like, what do we do about XYZ, environmental issue in the city? How do we deal with litter? How do we deal, what are the ways to connect people to our waterways, or, like whatever kind of topic we would want to talk about, but just to give us a chance to talk about an issue and provide that space for public comment to provide feedback. So I just offer that as like a potential, thing we could do that's not super structured, and it could be, it doesn't have to be in every meeting, because if we have a very full plate at a specific meeting, that we don't need to take that time. But if we have a lull, or if it's like a less busy time, then we have something to got backup sort of thing to talk about.
Thanks, Amelia.
Just to that point, I would say that we could use the like buckets or the sort of metrics and targets, related to the buckets in the comp plan now, because the comp plan is really like the merging of the climate justice plan and the 2014 sustainability plan. And then, the work that Emily's done, the metrics and targets and the alignment. So we could like take one of those buckets and a target and try to break it down and say like, all right, like have a discussion around it. What are we doing to move the needle on this target? What are some of the challenges? As like kind of framing those questions. So we're like keeping in line with that plan and vision.
I like that, Leah. And I think that also opens up like a focused conversation with the public to give their input along the way.
Great point, Priscilla and Leah.
Yeah, that's there's 16 topics of the targets we prioritized. I really love that idea. I would also I would also think of the parallel of this at the board, and just thinking about the workload of the chair and how that could be distributed, as like I know there's a vice chair, which is unique that Julian is very COVID focused, but it may be less intimidating if the vice chair is able to like be a kind of more of an apprentice to the chair for a few years before becoming the chair, or otherwise just distributing responsibilities.
Great point.
Thinking about the age distribution and, you know, whatnot, I'm wondering, are there like limits? Like, could we have like a high schooler on the, you know, group, or because I think that would be an invaluable perspective from for the board.
I don't see any reason why we couldn't. Leah, do you know of any reason why we could not?
No, and the sustainability ordinance update calls for 2 youth designated seats. So that's certainly a goal. Thinking about our membership too, or the task force's membership, I wonder if it's valuable to think about like other groups like labor, business, or institutions that might be helpful to, you know, bring into this work and build relationships with as well.
Yeah. And there might be other organizations with whom we have some like natural overlap that we're not working with. I know I'm always learning about really great stuff happening across the city. Awesome. Any other thoughts? Nope, no pressure. I just kind of wanted to kick this off and we can have a more structured conversation at our next meeting. But
I was saying like a housing person might be really great to bring in.
oh yeah.
Because that's a big focus of the climate justice plan and like an area of work that I know I personally don't have a lot of expertise in. So
that's a really great point. As just kind of a point of history for newer folks and also folks in the public who are still listening, there have previously been, like as the membership has changed over the years, there have been like, you know, people from Providence Water or people who kind of covered different topics in that way. I'm not suggesting that we want like a Providence Water person. I'm just saying like there has been precedent for like there being like specific kind of like representation from different groups, which is something we can think about. It looks like Judy Platts in the public has a comment. Angela, would you be able to unmute her to share her thought with us?
Do you want me to move her over to the panelist for her to speak?
Yeah, if she could just like whatever needs to happen so that she's unmuted, just so she can speak.
Yep, I'm gonna promote her now.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Angela.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Judy, do you want to unmute yourself and share your public comment?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes.
Hey, great. Yes, I have an idea. There may be a lot of people that you would like to have on your board because you'd like their point of view, but the fact is they're very busy. They're working a job or 2 jobs or taking care of this, that, and the next thing. They simply don't have time. But what about, instead of having them as a regular member, ask them to be a guest just once and ask them some questions and have their point of view on some issues that you're dealing with. And you get more variety of people able to participate.
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's a great point that a lot of people are busy, especially for a recurring monthly meeting. Awesome. Any other thoughts or questions or just things to think about?
That's all I can think of at the moment.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy. Any other task force members have thoughts or things they want to add? Or members of the Office of Sustainability?
no, but it looks like Liza has her hand raised.
Oh, thanks. I didn't see that.
Yeah, no problem.
Would you mind unmuting Liza, please? Hey, Liza. You have to unmute yourself, I think.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. This is such an interesting conversation, something I think about a lot as a member of the BPAC as well. And I was just thinking, well, first of all, I'm very, very willing and able to share the compost survey out with the neighborhood associations. No problem there.
Yay, thanks.
Yeah. And then the other thing was, like, because the climate justice plan has so many chapters on specific topic areas, and like it could be interesting to have folks representing those topic areas to make sure that the work is on track to implementation. Not that anyone would be able to implement all aspects of the climate justice plan all at once, but that could be a framework to think about while thinking about the makeup of the board.
Awesome. That's a really great idea. Cool. Anyone else? And no pressure. Awesome. I'm also going to pretend I'm looking at each one of you in the eyes like I would be if we were at a table. You don't know who I'm looking at, but I'm looking at you to think about if you want to either be vice chair, another vice chair, because Julian already is vice chair, but has had an understandable overload of work at the forefront of our COVID response, but also potentially a future chair of the task force, because we want to make sure that we are planning ahead and preparing. And I won't put anyone on the spot now because I don't think that's a really great way to do things. But if that is of interest and you want to talk about it, you all know how to contact me. Or if you are listening in as a member of the public and you're like, gosh, they're talking about some things about getting some new members and new topics, and I would like to get in on that. Also reach out, because we will be putting out a call for new members pretty soon once that ordinance starts moving through, so we can put it all out at once. So yeah, I'll wrap that up unless anyone has any final thoughts. Cool. I'll reach out to folks.
You mentioned there's an existing vacancy, correct?
Yeah, there is an existing vacancy, and I was going to follow up with you on that, Leah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But did you have a comment about it? Because if there's...
No, I just didn't know if I missed something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had voted, folks remember we had voted to bring Susanna in, and I have not heard from her in quite a bit of time, even after poking a little bit. So I will try again, but I am assuming that she is no longer interested and we then have that seat available. Okay, great. Well, I will move on to our very last thing, which is the opportunity for public comment. If anyone has from the public has public comment relative to the agenda items that we've discussed, please raise your hand and we will hear those. Or if any task force members have additional public comment that they want to add in, now is the time. Cool. Well, it looks like folks are pretty low key today, and that is great because it is a beautiful day, and I would love for you guys to have a half hour of your day back that you weren't expecting. I would ask for a motion, but Sean told me last time that I've been doing that for like 3 years. Apparently we don't need a motion. So unless I see any objections, I will just close the meeting. And people can make their own motions if they'd like. Awesome. We can just adjourn. Thank you guys so much. Have a really great evening.
You as well.
Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thank
Angela
you.
and Jennifer.
You're welcome. Have a good one.